My family has a scale. My dad says everything is about fairness. If my brother broke a 500 yuan vase, I'd have to take 500 yuan from my New Year's money to make up for it. If my brother failed an exam, I'd have to score 10 points higher next time to compensate. This is called family responsibility system. To cultivate my sense of responsibility, I desperately tried to become ordinary, afraid to have any more outstanding qualities. Until the day my brother got into a fight and broke his leg. My parents cornered me in the hospital, looking at me with icy eyes. Audrey, your brother needs a leg. Look, how can we balance the scale? I clutched the envelope containing my 30,000 yuan scholarship tightly. The sweat on my palms almost soaked through it. This was a national scholarship, earned by staying up countless nights and working desperately hard. But I felt no joy, my heart gripped by immense fear. As expected, the atmosphere at dinner was as oppressive as a tomb. My mom Sarah carefully put a piece of rib on my plate, smiling at me ingratiatingly. My brother Justin slammed his chopsticks on the table, his face full of resentment. How can I eat? I'm full just looking at her. Bad luck. His bowl in front of him was empty, as if everyone owed him 8 million. My dad Robert slowly folded his newspaper, his gaze like a searchlight, first sweeping over me, then landing on my brother, and finally, settling in the center of the table. There was nothing there, but I knew that damned scale in his heart was being brought out again. Justin, how was the interview today? My dad's voice was flat, without a trace of emotion. My brother's shoulders slumped instantly. He stubbornly said, "That damn manager is blind. I wouldn't even go to such a lousy company if they begged me." In other words, rejected again. My dad stated the facts coldly, like reading a death report. This month, for the 5th time. My mom immediately tried to smooth things over. "Oh, our Justin just has bad luck. His abilities are top-notch. Son, don't worry. Good jobs take time to find." My dad completely ignored her, his sharp gaze turning to me. "Audrey, your scholarship, you got it?" My whole body stiffened, like a poor student being called on by the teacher. I trembled and pushed the sweat-soaked envelope over. My dad pulled out the papers inside, not even looking at the money, only staring at the certificate stamped with a bright red seal. "National scholarship, very good." He nodded, but his tone was like evaluating a commodity, brings honor to the family. My throat was dry, and I didn't dare say a word. As expected, he changed the subject, his tone suddenly turning cold. "But the family as a whole, the pace must be consistent. On a scale, if one side is high, the other side must be pressed down. Right now the scale is tilting very badly." He tapped the table with his finger, each word hitting my heart. "Your brother, Justin, has had no income for a month, causing a huge hole in the family's accounts. He's also suffered a major blow to his morale due to his job search failures, generating a huge mental consumption cost." He slammed the scholarship certificate in front of me, the red seal like a red-hot iron, burning my eyes. "Audrey, you calculate it. How do we balance this account?" I lowered my head, my nails digging deep into my palm, the taste of blood filling my mouth. I'll give the scholarship, all of it, to my brother." As soon as the words left my mouth, my brother suddenly raised his head, a greedy light bursting out in his lifeless eyes, like a hungry wolf seeing meat. But my dad shook his head, a cruel smile on his lips. "Not enough. 30,000 yuan is only enough to barely cover his income loss for 3 months. But the honor you've obtained has brought gain in reputation to this family. And his continuous failures have brought loss in reputation to this family. This positive and negative not only can't offset each other, but also exacerbate the gap." He took out that deep red ledger which recorded all my sins, and slammed it open. "You must make additional compensation. Starting next week, you'll work at the convenience store at the entrance of the community at night. All of your monthly wages will be used to pay for your brother's social expenses and entertainment expenses, until he finds a satisfactory job." He pushed up his glasses, announcing in a tone that brooked no argument, "This is called internal family resource allocation." I suddenly raised my head, looking at him in disbelief. Then looking at my brother next to me, who had a "that's more like it" expression, and my mom, who only dared to lower her head and eat, pretending she hadn't heard anything. My scholarship, my honor, the blood and sweat of my hard nights studying, At this moment, all became my original sin. My brother quickly used my social fund to get a new girlfriend named Ashley. Ashley was very beautiful, wearing delicate makeup, and her mouth was as sweet as honey. The first time she came to our house, she flattered my mom so much that my mom couldn't stop smiling. She brought my dad a box of fine Longjing tea and bought my mom a silk scarf, but when she got to me, she took out a beautifully packaged gift box from a designer bag and said with a sweet smile, "Audrey, Justin has told me that you're an amazing student and a source of pride for the family. I specifically chose this Parker pen for you. I hope you have a bright future." As if burned, I quickly pulled back my hand. We don't have the concept of gifts in our family, only cold equivalent exchange. My gaze instinctively turned to my dad in the main seat. Dad pushed up his glasses, his eyes behind the lenses cold and sharp. "Audrey, you can't just take things from people for free. This pen, Miss Ashley has imbued with favors owed. What do you plan to use to repay it?" The smile on Ashley's face instantly froze. She clearly hadn't expected this. I stood there awkwardly, not knowing where to put my hands and feet, my cheeks burning, wishing I could find a crack in the floor to disappear into. "Oh, Robert, what are you doing? Ashley's here for the first time. It's just a pen. We're all family. Let Audrey accept it." Mom hurriedly tried to smooth things over. "Rules are rules." Dad's voice was devoid of warmth, firm and decisive. In the end, Ashley awkwardly smiled and took the pen back herself. She hooked her arm through my brother's and complained in a coquettish way. "Oh, it's all my fault. I forgot about your family's rules. Justin, you never told me your family was so formal, like attending court." My brother's face turned red and white in turns. He glared at me fiercely and explained to Ashley in a low voice. "My sister is just like that. My parents taught her to be too serious. She's just book smart, doesn't understand social graces at all. I apologize for the embarrassment." I ate that meal on pins and needles. Ashley kept chattering about stories from her social circle, whose boyfriend bought her the new LV bag, whose boyfriend took her to the Maldives. As she spoke, she looked at my brother with worshipful and expectant eyes. My brother sat up straight, but his face turned the color of a pig's liver. After the meal, Dad called me into his study. That deep red ledger was placed in front of me once again. "Today, because of your inflexibility, Ashley's first impression of our family was skewed. You caused your brother to lose face in front of his girlfriend. You have to be responsible for this emotional loss. Tell me, how are you going to compensate your brother?" I clenched the hem of my shirt tightly, my knuckles turning white. I'll go apologize to my brother." "Apologize?" Dad sneered, as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. "An apology is the cheapest, most worthless form of compensation in the world. Can it be turned into money? Can it be turned into face?" He flipped open a page of the ledger and stabbed it heavily with his pen. "That bag Ashley mentioned just now, I took a look, it's listed on the official website for $13,008. Aren't you working at the convenience store? I've calculated it for you. You'd need to work for 10 months without eating or drinking. Of course, I'm not asking you to buy it right now." He raised his eyes and said to me word by word, like a judge pronouncing a sentence. "The balance is all about dynamic equilibrium. Your brother lost face, so you have to earn it back for him with something else. Doesn't Ashley think you're good at studying? Then you go and get a certificate that's more valuable than the national scholarship. Use this more dazzling honor to offset the face points your brother lost today." I walked out of the study numbly, like a wooden puppet whose soul had been taken away. In the living room, my brother and Ashley were snuggling on the sofa watching TV. Ashley leaned against my brother, her voice not too loud, just enough for me to hear. "Justin, your sister is so amazing. She can study and make money to support the family. Unlike me, I can't do anything right. I only know how to spend your money. I'm so useless." My brother immediately straightened up like he'd been injected with chicken blood, and proudly announced, "Of course. The girls of our Robert family are born to contribute to men. The money she's earning now, isn't it all going to be mine later?" I was going crazy. I completely became a machine for making money and studying. I applied for a part-time job at the school library, attending classes during the day, organizing books in the library in the evening, and then working the overnight shift at the convenience store in the middle of the night. 3 jobs a day. I spun like a top. "Welcome." I mechanically repeated, my vision blurring. If I hadn't grabbed the counter, I would have collapsed. I was almost at my limit, but I didn't dare to stop. Dad said if I stopped, the family's balance would be completely overturned because of the weight on my brother's side. I had to make money to pay for my brother's upcoming, endless spending. I also had to squeeze out all my waking hours to pore over those incomprehensible textbooks, to take that certificate whose name I didn't know, but which had to be more valuable. That night, the bell at the convenience store rang. Ashley walked in, hooked on my brother's arm, like a mistress inspecting her territory. "Oh, Audrey still here?" Ashley's tone was full of exaggerated surprise, as if I wasn't here to make a living, but to experience life. Without a word, my brother headed straight for the shelves, swept the most expensive imported potato chips, chocolates, Wagyu beef jerky, and 2 large tubs of Haagen-Dazs into his shopping basket, and then threw them heavily on the checkout counter. "Bro." I looked at the mountain of snacks, my heart bleeding, and whispered, "These are very expensive." "Expensive?" My brother's eyebrows shot up. He roared impatiently, "My girlfriend wants to eat it, no matter how expensive it is. I have to buy it. Is that any of your business?" After roaring, he immediately put on a flattering smile towards Ashley. "Honey, what else do you want to eat? Just take it, it's on your sister today." Ashley's gaze swept over my sallow face, then she covered her mouth and let out a string of silvery laughter. "Oh, Audrey, you're not worried about the money, are you? Your brother has already told me, the money you earn is all for him later. We're just eating a little bit of your snacks now. You should be happy. This is letting you fulfill your obligations early." When it was time to pay, the machine displayed 328 yuan. Without even looking, my brother pushed the pile of things in front of me. "Put it on my tab." "Bro, this is a small business here. I can't keep a tab." I was about to cry out of embarrassment. "What the hell do you mean?" My brother's face instantly darkened, his voice suddenly rising. "I'm spending my own money, and you dare to stop me? Audrey, let me tell you, this money, every penny you earn, should have been mine in the first place. If you hadn't always been so eager to show off and stole my affection from a young age, would Mom and Dad treat me this way? This is all your fault." Ashley pretended to pull on his hand. "Oh, Justin, don't be angry. Why bother arguing with your own sister? Audrey, just cover it first. It's not like your brother won't pay you back." I knew that this money would be recorded word for word in Dad's blood-red ledger, becoming another deficit that I needed to fill in. I silently counted out the crumpled bills from my worn-out wallet and paid it forward. They left with their large bags, completely satisfied. Mr. Wang, the convenience store owner, walked over and sighed with pity. "Audrey, your family is just. Ugh, your brother is practically a bloodsucker." I shook my head, unable to say a word, but tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. I thought this was hell. But I never imagined that the real hell was yet to come. That night, I dragged my leaden right leg back home, only to find the house brightly lit and in complete disarray. Mom was sitting on the floor wailing, and Dad's face was so dark it could drip water. The coffee table in the living room had been smashed to pieces. My brother and Ashley were sitting on the sofa, Ashley's face streaked with tears, but with a hint of triumph hidden in her eyes. Seeing me, Dad jumped up like an enraged lion, rushing up to me and pointing at my nose, his voice trembling. "Audrey, look at what you've done." I was completely stunned, my mind blank. Mom rushed over, crying, and pounded my arms. Your brother got into a fight for Ashley. He broke someone's head. They've called the police and are demanding 200,000 yuan in compensation. 200,000. Where are we going to get that?" I looked at Ashley in shock. Ashley immediately started crying even harder, throwing herself into my brother's arms. "It's all my fault. It's not Justin's fault. That thug was drunk and tried to touch me. Justin was just protecting me. He's a hero." My brother held her, his neck stiff as he roared at Dad. "I didn't do anything wrong. Any man would have done the same. Protecting his woman is the right thing to do." "You unfilial brat." Dad trembled with rage, raising his hand and slapping my brother hard across the face. "What are you going to pay with? Are you going to pay with your life?" After shouting, he suddenly turned to me. That look in his eyes was so familiar. Cold, cruel, like he was appraising a commodity. He was looking at that invisible scale again. Audrey, his voice without a trace of emotion, each word like a knife. With such a big problem at home, the balance is completely tipped. Your brother was protecting his family, he did good, but also made a mistake. You need to make up for this huge mistake. He stared intently at me, as if my body had a price tag on it. You figure out how to get that 200,000 yuan. 200,000. The number was like an iceberg, instantly engulfing me and making me unable to breathe. Dad, I don't have that much money. My voice trembled uncontrollably, filled with sobs. I don't care how you do it. Dad's eyes didn't have a trace of paternal love, only cold assessment and calculation. I raised you for so long, nurtured you, provided you with the best educational resources. Now it's time for you to repay the family. Ashley sobbed insincerely beside him. Uncle, don't force Audrey, it's all my fault. I'll just beg that family, I'll kneel down to them. Hearing this, my brother immediately became agitated like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. No, I absolutely won't allow you to suffer any grievances and beg those sons of bitches. Dad, are you even a man? If my sister can't do it, then sell the house. Grandpa and Grandma said that this house was for me. Mom also cried out, Robert, how about we pawn my jewelry? It can add up to something. All of you shut up, Dad roared, and the house immediately fell silent. He stared intently at me, the look in his eyes like that of looking at livestock about to be slaughtered in an abattoir. The house is the foundation of the Robert family. It absolutely cannot be touched. Your mom's broken jewelry, what's it worth? His voice became low and filled with cruel determination. Right now, the only most valuable living asset in the family is you. He said, I'll show you a clear path. I have a business partner, Mr. Smith. His son is 35 this year, just divorced, and wants to find someone stable and homely. They don't ask for anything else, just a clean family background, good education, and a clean appearance. The blood in my body completely froze into ice at that moment. Mr. Smith said, as long as you agree to this marriage, he can immediately help us settle the 200,000 yuan. In addition, he will arrange for your brother a cushy position as a deputy manager in their company, with an annual salary of 300,000 yuan. I looked at him in disbelief. At this man I had called Dad for 20 years. He was going to sell me. For 200,000 yuan, to pave the way for his useless son's future, he was going to pack me up and trade me away like a commodity. Dad, I'm your daughter. I finally cried out, looking at him in despair. Precisely because you are my daughter, you must take responsibility for this family. Dad's voice was extremely cold, without a trace of wavering. Your brother is a boy, he is the root of the Robert family, he can't have any accidents, he can't have any blemishes. You're going to get married sooner or later, so what does it matter who you marry? Marrying into the Smith family can not only solve the current crisis, but also help your brother's future. This is the maximization of your value, and the greatest contribution you can make to this family. Mom painfully turned her head away, not daring to look at me, only covering her mouth and silently crying. My brother lowered his head, not saying a word, which was considered tacit agreement, and the corners of Ashley's mouth curled into a smile that was almost imperceptible, a smile of victory. I felt like I had fallen into a bottomless ice cave, surrounded by menacing demons. My struggles, my efforts, every job I worked overtime on, all the certificates I desperately obtained, in their eyes, were not as valuable as being someone who can be used for a marriage alliance. My world collapsed completely in that instant. I looked at these three people I called family, and they were so strange, so terrifying. The next day, my father arranged the meeting with swift efficiency. In a lavish, opulent restaurant, the man known as Mr. Smith Jr., with a protruding beer belly, scrutinized me from head to toe with a critical and greasy gaze, as if picking out a piece of pork at the market. He even had me open my mouth and looked at my teeth. Finally, he nodded with satisfaction and said to my father, Mr. Robert, I'm very pleased with your daughter. Clean, obedient, and good for childbearing. Just as they were finalizing the dowry details, haggling over the price of a commodity, a phone rang shrilly. It was the police station. My father's smug and fawning expression instantly froze, then turned ashen. He hung up the phone, looked at us, his voice as dry as if rubbed with sandpaper. Justin, is in trouble again. It turned out that the person beaten up yesterday had some connections and refused to settle out of court. They hired a group of people and ambushed my brother, who was preparing to go and reason with them. My brother's leg was broken. We rushed to the hospital. The emergency room corridor was filled with the strong smell of disinfectant and blood. My brother lay on a mobile hospital bed, his right leg in a thick cast soaked in blood, his face as white as paper, twitching constantly from the excruciating pain. Ashley was crouched beside the bed, crying her eyes out, her makeup smeared. The doctor pulled my father aside, his expression extremely serious. The patient has a comminuted fracture of the right tibia, a very complex situation, with a high degree of surgical difficulty. Even if the surgery is successful, I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to walk normally again in the future. He will most likely be permanently disabled. With a thud, my mother collapsed on the spot and fainted. My father stood there without saying a word, his body taut like a string about to snap. I stood on the periphery of the crowd, like an outsider unrelated to all of this. No one looked at me, no one paid attention to me, as if I were just a transparent shadow. Until my father slowly turned his head. His gaze crossed over all the chaotic people, like a nail, accurately hammered onto me. He walked towards me step by step. His face held no anger, no sadness, only a chilling, extreme calmness. He stopped in front of me. He looked at me as if looking at a number in his ledger, the ultimate weight that could be used to fill a deficit and balance the books. "Audrey," he began, his voice so calm that it made my hair stand on end. "Your brother needs a leg." He paused, each word like an ice-coated dagger, stabbing fiercely into my heart. "You see, how can we balance the scales?" I looked into my father's emotionless eyes, which contained only cold calculation and measurement. He wasn't joking. He was really calculating what parts of me could be dismantled to compensate for his precious son's broken leg. I didn't cry or make a scene. I just looked at him and then nodded clearly. "Okay," I said. My reaction took everyone by surprise. My father was stunned. My mother, who had just woken up and was still crying, stopped crying and looked at me in disbelief. Even Ashley, who was performing grief by the bed, forgot to keep shedding tears. I walked past them to my brother's bed. His forehead was covered in cold sweat from pain and fear, and the look in his eyes was tinged with deep terror for the first time. "Brother, don't worry," I said to him, word by word. "I will make the scales completely balanced." With that, I turned around and left the hospital without looking back. No one stopped me. Perhaps they thought I was really going to make some earth-shattering sacrifice for this family, for his ruined leg. I returned to the home that had suffocated me for 20 years. I didn't pack any clothes. I only took my ID card, household registration book, passport, and all the original copies of the certificates and awards that I had earned with my blood and sweat since I was a child. Finally, I went into my father's study. The deep red family ledger, that had recorded half my life like a vampire, was placed in the most conspicuous position on the desk. I picked it up and put it in my backpack along with all my documents. This was the first time I had taken something from this house that didn't belong to me. But I felt this was the only thing I deserved. I didn't leave a note, not a single word. I just looked back at this empty, cold so-called home before closing the door. Then I left. I left without a trace of reluctance. I went to the bank as fast as I could, and withdrew all the money I had saved from working 3 jobs. Every bill carrying the fatigue and humiliation of my sleepless nights. Then I bought the earliest plane ticket to the south. As the plane soared into the clouds, I looked at the city shrinking outside the window, feeling like I had finally broken free from the heavy cage called home. Meanwhile, at the hospital, after a brief moment of stunned silence, Dad immediately regained his composure. He said to Mom, "It's good she's thought it through, as expected of my Robert's daughter, responsible and understands the bigger picture." He took out his phone and began to call his Mr. Smith with great enthusiasm, discussing how to maximize the value of me, this sacrifice. However, my phone was already turned off. 1 day, 2 days. I was nowhere to be found. Dad started to feel that something was wrong. He thought I was just being temperamental and hiding. He started sending me messages, which went from orders at the beginning to furious insults. "Audrey, have you caused enough trouble? Your brother's leg can't wait. Get back here immediately. You ungrateful wretch. We raised you for nothing. Do you want to watch your brother become a cripple? Mom kept calling me, but the only thing she heard was the cold voice saying the phone was off. On the third day, an urgent lawyer's letter was delivered to the house. Dad impatiently opened the letter. When he saw the contents, the calm and collected look on his face, for the first time, started to crack. I sued them. The charges were abuse and more than 10 years of illegal appropriation of property and psychological manipulation. I demanded that they return every penny I had been forced to compensate my brother for since I was 6 years old, including but not limited to New Year's money, pocket money, scholarships, income from part-time jobs. A total of 378,600 yuan. Furthermore, I demanded compensation for mental damage in the amount of 1 million yuan. And the most damning evidence was the family ledger that my father was so proud of, which I had taken with me. Every page, every word, clearly recorded the crimes he had committed against me for more than a decade. Dad's first reaction upon seeing the lawyer's letter was rage. He tore the letter to pieces and roared hysterically at Mom. This rebellious daughter. She's crazy. She actually dares to sue us. She wants to ruin this family. Mom was trembling with fear, completely lost. Robert, what should we do? How could Audrey do this? Has she been deceived by bad people? What can she do? She is my daughter. I raised her. Does she dare to sue me? Dad's face showed a distorted extreme confidence. She's just being instigated by some wild man outside. Once I catch her, lock her up for a few days, beat her up, and she'll know she's wrong. He immediately began to use all his connections to find me, only to find that all my information had disappeared as if from thin air. He went to the school, and the school said that I had completed the leave of absence procedures, and the files had just been encrypted and transferred an hour ago. He went to the places where I had worked, and the bosses all said that I had resigned long ago, and the wages had been settled. He went to the police in a fit of anger, saying that I was missing. After listening to his description, the police looked at him with the eyes of someone looking at a lunatic, and asked, "Sir, are you sure your daughter is missing, and not running away from home to escape you?" Just as Dad was frantic and running around like a headless fly, the second gift fell from the sky. A detailed explanation document with his family responsibility system and balance theory printed on it, along with the most critical and shocking high-definition copies of the family ledger, were anonymously sent to the email inboxes of every member of Dad's company's board of directors, all of his business partners and industry associations. The email title was, "On Entrepreneur Mr. Robert's Innovative Family Management Model, Squeezing His Daughter to Make Up the Difference for His Useless Son." One stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Dad's Confucian businessman and strict father image, which he had painstakingly cultivated in the company for many years, collapsed overnight. In the company, colleagues looked at him with eyes full of contempt and curiosity. The leaders who used to call him Mr. Robert, every other sentence called him for a meeting, with an expression so serious that you could scrape frost off it. Those business partners who used to call him brothers stopped answering his calls, and cooperative projects were suspended one after another. He went from a respected elder to a monster who exploited his own daughter overnight, a laughingstock pointed at by everyone. And my brother Justin also received his gift on time. I compiled how he spent my hard-earned money with peace of mind, how he indulged his girlfriend to humiliate me, how he only cared about selling the house when I was raising 200,000 in compensation for him, and all his past shortcomings that needed to be filled into a 10-page graphic PDF document and sent it to Ashley, as well as all her girlfriends' groups and circles of friends. Ashley smashed her phone on the spot after reading it. The sisters around her looked at her with eyes full of contempt and ridicule. A woman who relies on exploiting her future sister-in-law's hard-earned money to satisfy her vanity. That reputation is even worse than being with a man who leeches off you. She immediately rushed to the hospital and had a huge argument with Justin, who was still groaning in bed. "Justin, I was blind to fall for you. Are you even a man? You're just a useless leech sucking the blood of your own sister. You disgust me. What's wrong with me spending my sister's money? It's our family's business. What's it to you? The money you spend, isn't it all earned by her too? Justin roared back, still unrepentant. Your family? Your family is a madhouse. Ashley picked up her designer bag and left without looking back, leaving behind a venomous curse. I'm telling you, Justin, we're done. You and your twisted family, may you be locked together forever and live out your days. Justin stared blankly at Ashley's resolute back and felt a deep-seated fear for the first time. At home, Dad received a summons from the court. Looking at the name Audrey on the plaintiff's seat, his hand trembled as if he had Parkinson's. He had to sell a small apartment he had prepared for my brother's wedding to hire the most expensive lawyer in the city. After the lawyer reviewed all the evidence I provided, especially the original ledger, he shook his head at him and said only one sentence. Mr. Robert, in this lawsuit, from both a human and legal standpoint, you have no chance of winning. I suggest you find a way to raise money immediately. I did not attend the trial, entrusting everything to the lawyer. Dad Robert sat in the defendant's seat, his hair meticulously combed, trying to defend himself with his twisted balance theory. Your Honor, everything I have done is to maintain family harmony and fairness. A family is a whole, members support each other, complement each other. This is the traditional virtue of our Chinese nation. I am using my way to educate my daughter and let her become a responsible person. My lawyer stood up and presented the deep red ledger to the judge like a sharp sword. Defendant, please explain why, in this ledger that spans more than a decade, all the complimenting is borne solely by my client, your daughter Audrey? Why, when your son Justin broke a vase, did 6-year-old Audrey use all her New Year's money to pay for it? Why, when your son failed an exam, did Audrey have to score 10 more points on the next exam to make up for it? Defendant, please explain further. Why, when your daughter received a national scholarship, not only did you not reward her, but you believed that this broke the family balance, and punished her, demanding that she use her scholarship and her blood and sweat labor at night to compensate for your adult son's so-called unemployment loss and mental burnout. The lawyer's voice was not loud, but every word was like a heavy hammer, hitting the hearts of everyone in the courtroom. Dad's face turned paler and paler, cold sweat oozing from his forehead. He began to ramble incoherently. This is to cultivate her responsibility. It's for her own good. Jade must be carved before it becomes a vessel. For her own good? The lawyer gave an icy scoff. For her own good, so when your son needed to pay 200,000 yuan for hitting someone, you forced her to have a business marriage with a man 15 years older than her? For her own good, so when your son's leg was broken, you asked her, how should the balance be kept? Implying that she use her own body organs to compensate. The courtroom erupted in an uproar. Everyone's eyes, like sharp swords, were all directed at Dad in the defendant's seat. Mom Sarah was in the audience, and when she heard these words, she couldn't control herself anymore, and burst into tears on the spot. Finally, the court pronounced its verdict. The court sentenced Robert and Sarah to return all the property of their daughter Audrey that they had illegally occupied over the years in the name of family responsibility system, totaling 378,600 yuan. Due to their long-term mental control and abuse, causing serious mental trauma to Audrey, they were required to pay 500,000 yuan in mental distress compensation. The two items totaled 878,600 yuan. This was a number enough to completely crush their family. When Dad walked out of the courtroom, he looked as if all the bones in his body had been instantly removed, aging 20 years overnight. What greeted him was a termination letter from the company and a debarment notice from the industry association. He was finished. In order to pay this huge sum, they had to sell the large house they were currently living in. This house, which my brother Justin considered his own, and had long planned to write his name on. On the day of signing the contract, Justin rushed into the real estate agency, limping on crutches, pointing at Dad's nose and cursing. Dad, you can't sell. This house is mine. Why are you selling my house for that ungrateful wretch? Dad looked at his useless son with empty eyes, and for the first time did not tell him that bullshit balance theory. He just raised his hand and slapped Justin hard in the face with all his strength. Yours? What in this family is still yours? They moved into an old, dilapidated rental house. Small, dark. The walls were covered with large patches of water-stained mold, and the air was always filled with a rotten smell. Falling from the clouds to the mud was only a month. Dad Robert could no longer find a decent job. No company dared to hire an employee with a record of abusing his children. He could only do odd jobs, doing the manual labor he used to look down on the most, carrying bricks on construction sites, and washing dishes in restaurant kitchens. Mom Sarah's spirit completely collapsed, crying all day long, like a broken record, constantly muttering my name. My brother Justin's leg recovered very poorly, because he missed the best time for treatment, and had no money for imported drugs and rehabilitation equipment. He became a cripple who could never be without crutches. He vented all his resentment on his parents. The complete family that Dad was once so proud of was now only filled with endless quarrels, complaints, and despair. It's all your fault, you old fool. If you hadn't come up with that broken balance back then, and tortured your sister every day, would she hate us? Would the family be like this today? Justin pointed at Dad's nose and cursed. You still have the nerve to blame me? Dad said with red eyes, throwing the steamed bun in his hand hard on the ground. If you, that good-for-nothing, hadn't caused trouble again and again, would I have needed Audrey to fill the gap? You're a bottomless pit. Mom cried heart-wrenchingly on the side. Stop arguing. All of you stop arguing. Go find Audrey. Bring Audrey back. We'll apologize to her, let her come back. She's our daughter, she can't ignore us. They started frantically looking for me. But I was no longer in the country. I used that money to apply to top universities abroad, changed to a completely new environment, and started my new life. I blacklisted all their contact information and changed my phone number. Half a year later, I received an international call from an unknown number. It was Mom. Her voice was hoarse and humble, full of pleading. Audrey. My daughter. Come back. Mom knows she was wrong. We really know we were wrong. Come back and see us, okay? Your dad. He's carrying cement on construction sites now, his hands are all calloused. Your brother. His leg is crippled, he can't find a job, he just drinks and curses at home every day. Audrey, the family scales have long been broken. Come back, let's start over as a family, okay? I listened quietly without saying a word. On the other end of the phone, Dad snatched the phone, shouting in exasperation. Audrey, haven't you caused enough trouble? Are you only happy when you forced our whole family to death? I'm telling you, you'll always be Robert's daughter. My blood flows in your veins. You have to come back and take responsibility. Responsibility. Even now he's still talking to me about his damn responsibility. I laughed until tears came out of my eyes. Mr. Robert. I called him with such an unfamiliar address for the first time. The accounts, we've already settled them in court. As for responsibility, my responsibility is to be responsible for my own life. And your responsibilities, you bear them yourselves. After saying that, I hung up the phone decisively and blacklisted the number. I thought that was the end. But I never expected that they would reappear in my life in a way I never imagined, the most vicious way. A year later, I was in the library preparing my graduation thesis, when my phone started vibrating like crazy. I opened it and saw countless links sent by classmates and friends. I clicked on it. It was a post on the school's Chinese forum that had been pushed to the top as a hot topic. Searching for daughter. A tearful plea. Please, kind people, help these abandoned and desperate parents. In the post were my parents. Both of them had gray hair, were full of wrinkles, wearing ragged clothes, and crying into the camera, sobbing. They said that their kind and simple daughter was bewitched by bad people, took all the money from the family, ran away from home, and has not been heard from since. They said that they sold all their family property and crossed the ocean to this foreign country, not understanding the language, penniless, just to see their daughter again. The post included all my personal information, high-definition ID photos, name, and the school and major I was studying in. Below were one-sided comments full of sympathy and anger. Oh my God, how pitiful. How can this daughter be so cruel? She's a beast. Don't cry, uncle and aunt will help you find her. Dox her. Let her suffer social death. What's the use of reading so many books? A piece of garbage who doesn't even want her parents. They successfully portrayed themselves as victims searching for their relatives from thousands of miles away. And I, overnight, became an unfilial, cold-blooded, viperous evil woman. Soon, my personal information was completely dug up. My address, my phone number, my social media accounts were all made public. I started receiving countless harassing phone calls, all filled with vicious accusations and abuse. Walking on campus, people were always pointing at me and whispering, even throwing things at me. Finally, they found my residence and waited downstairs in my apartment building every day. As soon as Dad Robert saw me, he rushed up with bloodshot eyes trying to grab me, but I dodged him nimbly. Then, in front of all the onlookers, neighbors and classmates, he knelt down with a thump. "Audrey, Dad was wrong. Dad kneels to you. Come home with us. The family can't be without you." Mom was crying her heart out beside him, almost fainting. Brother Justin leaned on his crutch, like a tragic judge, pointing at me, shouting with all his strength and grief and indignation, "Audrey, open your dog eyes and look at Mom and Dad. Look what they've become because of you. Do you have any conscience?" The neighbors and classmates who didn't know the truth were all whispering and pointing at me. How can she treat her parents like that? Too cold-blooded. What a waste of reading so many books. All that knowledge went to the dogs. I was firmly tied to a moral cross. They ruined my life, and now, they want to use the bluntest of knives, family affection and public opinion, to kidnap the rest of my life. I looked at Dad, kneeling on the ground, crying with old tears streaming down his face, the familiar calculation and desire for control in the depths of his eyes, not diminished in the slightest. He wasn't repenting, he was performing. He was using his best method, trying to regain control of me, to drag me back to that hell. I took a deep breath, took out my phone, and dialed my lawyer's number. In front of everyone, I calmly pressed the speakerphone. "Hello, I want to report a crime. Someone is maliciously leaking my personal information and subjecting me to continuous harassment, defamation, and moral kidnapping, which has seriously affected my normal life and personal safety." Dad's crying stopped abruptly. Mom stared, her eyes wide with disbelief. The grief and indignation on my brother's face instantly turned into bewilderment and fear. I looked at them and spoke, word by word, clearly and distinctly. "Also, I'm applying for a restraining order." The police arrived quickly. In front of everyone, I calmly presented the judgment from the domestic court, certified English translation, and all the documents required for my restraining order application, to the police and the school security personnel who had rushed over. The moment the truth was revealed, the surrounding air seemed to freeze. The neighbors and classmates who had just been righteously indignant and condemning me, their eyes instantly shifted from sympathy to contempt, shock, and disgust when they looked at my parents. Dad Robert was still kneeling on the ground, his face flushed red and then white, as if he had been stripped naked in public, ashamed and humiliated. His carefully planned, self-righteous sob story had turned into a complete international farce. "No. It's not like that. Listen to me. This is a family matter," he stammered, trying to explain. But I didn't give him another chance. The police issued them a stern warning for harassment and defamation, and invited them to leave my community. This farce quickly spread like wildfire throughout the city's Chinese community. They became the object of everyone's gossip, the extreme parents who ran abroad to make a scene in order to force their daughter into submission, the biggest laughingstock. After being warned by the police, they didn't leave. They rented a dark, damp basement not far from my school. When their visas expired, they became illegal overstays. Dad could no longer find any work, and could only secretly wash dishes in the back kitchen of a Chinese restaurant, earning meager cash. Mom became an illegal nanny, but because she was clumsy and didn't speak the language, she was frequently fired and verbally abused. My brother's leg was getting worse and worse. He became a complete invalid, and could only stay in that dark basement all day long, like a maggot, living off his parents' meager income. One day, my lawyer contacted me and said that Robert wanted to see me, saying it was the last time. I went. I met him at a cheap coffee shop. He looked older than the last time I saw him. His back was completely hunched, and he was wearing an ill-fitting, grease-stained chef's uniform, reeking of stale food. He didn't look at me, just stared intently at the cheapest black coffee in front of him. "The two ends of a balance must have something on them to be balanced," he said, his voice hoarse as if it had been rubbed with sandpaper. "Before, I thought one side was your brother and the other was you. Now I understand." He slowly raised his head and looked at me, His eyes, which once only held calculation and control, were now filled with dead ashes. That balance from the beginning, both sides were you. One side, your sacrifice. The other side, your value. So no matter what you do, it can never be balanced. And I was the one who thought I was the god controlling the balance, but in reality, I was just the most ridiculous fool, futilely fiddling with the weights beside it. This was the first time I had heard such clear words from his mouth. He tremblingly took something out of his pocket and placed it on the table, pushing it in front of me. It was a signed organ donation agreement and a recently effective high-value accidental death insurance policy, with my name, Audrey, clearly written in the beneficiary section. "This is the last thing I can put on the balance," he said, with a hint of relief in his voice. "My life, my organs, and this insurance that can be turned into money. Audrey, consider it my last request. Your mother, your brother, they are useless, but they don't deserve to die. Use this money to send them back to China and let them live." He looked at me, his eyes even carrying a hint of almost humble pleading. "That way, what I owe you, can it be balanced?" Even at the last moment of his life, he was still calculating, still thinking about balancing his damn account book. I looked at the oil-stained insurance policy, and then at his face, completely crushed by life. I didn't touch the documents. I just stood up, looking down at him. "You're wrong," I said. "My life, my future, my freedom, from the moment I left that house, it has been priceless. Priceless things cannot be measured by any weight, and do not need anything to balance them. So Mr. Robert, your account book will never be balanced." I walked out of the coffee shop, never looking back. Behind me was his completely collapsed world, and that untouched cup of cold coffee that had never been touched from beginning to end. I finally, with my own hands, completely shattered that invisible balance that had plagued half my life. From now on, the sea is vast and the sky is boundless. I will live for myself.